Hello children, today we will resume the chapter Parliamentary form of government and learn something new. So without any delay, let's get started.
Parliamentary form of government. We were discussing about the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers in the previous session. I discussed that the President appoints the Council of Ministers on the advice of the Prime Minister. Now, what does the Council of Ministers mean? The Council of Ministers consists of three types of ministers. These are Cabinet Ministers, Ministers of State, Deputy Ministers. So, the Council of Ministers consists of the Cabinet Ministers, Ministers of State, and the Deputy Ministers. Try to understand the Cabinet Ministers. The top level ministers who formulate plans and policies are the Cabinet Ministers. They hold really important position. They frame the plans and policies and head important ministries like education, health, etc. Now, let's see all are the cabinet ministers. Shri Amit Shah, Minister of Home Affairs and holds the Ministry of Home Affairs. Shri Rajnath Singh, Minister of Defence. He heads Ministry of Defence. Shri Nitin Jairam Gadkari, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways is under him, and he also holds the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. He has the responsibility to encourage these small enterprises to grow and evolve and become competitive. Shri D.V. Sadanand, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers is under him. So, these are the examples of the cabinet ministers, the top level ministers who frame important policies and plans to help the country grow and help India become a developed nation. We will learn about the ministers of state. Ministers of state with independent charge refers to those ministers who are not under the supervision of the cabinet ministers. They themselves are the in charges of the ministry, and ministers of state are those who are under a cabinet minister and are answerable to the cabinet minister. Ministers of state with independent charges attend all the cabinet meetings, while the ministers of state, that means those who are dependent upon the cabinet ministers, do not attend the meetings. So, ministers of state include ministers of state with independent charge who are not under the supervision of cabinet minister, while the ministers of state refers to the ministers without independent charge. They are under the supervision of cabinet ministers. They do not attend the cabinet meetings and are comparatively less powerful. Then we have another set of ministers known as deputy ministers. So, who are deputy ministers? Deputy ministers help the other ministers. They help the other ministers in carrying out the responsibilities and duties. It is not easy for the ministers to carry out the duties and responsibilities, and hence deputy ministers play an eminent role by being instrumental in this process, and they help the ministers to carry out the responsibilities and duties. So deputy minister is a support system given to the ministers of state and the cabinet ministers so as to achieve the goals and execute the plans efficiently and effectively. Now we will try to understand the meaning of the frequently used phrase sense of collective responsibility or the cabinet collective responsibility. This means that all the members of the cabinet must publicly support all the governmental decisions made in the cabinet, even if they do not privately agree with them. Each cabinet member, each minister of the ruling party represents the party, and hence, since they represent the party and the government, it is the responsibility to show full support and faith in the governmental decisions, even if they do not privately agree to those decisions. So, collective responsibility refers to the responsibility of the cabinet to show full support to the government and faith in its decisions, even if they do not privately agree with them. It is their responsibility to show sense of faith to prevent any kind of unrest, provoking and upspringing in the country. Then, a minister in charge of any department is answerable for the shortcoming in the policies and the decisions. Say, if there are more of rail accidents, then the railway department, the railway minister can be held responsible and has to face the parliament and answer the questions. In case of lapse, that means if he fails to satisfy the parliament, then the Prime Minister can ask for his resignation to save his government. He may ask that particular person to resign to save the government, because they all are collectively responsible. And rightly said that the members of the ruling party swim and sink together, and so to prevent drowning, the Prime Minister may ask a particular minister to resign, because if he is not asked to resign, then a vote of no confidence motion can be passed against the party, the ruling party, and then the ruling party, the Prime Minister, has to resign, because the Lok Sabha will say or has the right to say that they do not have faith in the ruling party, that the ruling party is working up to the expectations of the people and living up to the faith reposed by the citizens. So, the Prime Minister can ask a particular minister to resign in order to save the party and to prevent the passing of no confidence motion. Then, all the major decisions are taken by the Council of Ministers. All the policies are made by the Council of Ministers. The Parliament only approves of them. The Parliament only considers the pros and the cons and decides whether the bill should be converted into a law or not. The President, he expresses the policies of the Council of Ministers. He announces the policies framed by the Council of Ministers. When the bill is passed by both the houses, he gives his assent and the bill becomes a law. He may return the bill once for reconsideration. However, if it's passed again, then he is bound to sign it. So, the Council of Ministers play a very important role in framing the policies, in making the decisions. And remember that decisions made for the country cannot be reversed easily, and they determine the destiny of the country, destiny of the citizens, and hence it's necessary that the decisions are taken wisely, and the Council of Ministers play a very eminent role here. With this, I wind up the session and request each of you to revise well, and I declare the chapter closed.